All right. Hello and welcome to our business roundtable for the month of September. A couple just quick announcements. We will be doing Q&A, general Q&A for the rest of the year on the business roundtable. And so if you have just anything you want to pick my brain on, let me know. Again, I had said already, but I'll say it again, that we're going to have a hard stop at 12:45 or earlier if there aren't any other questions, just because I want to get ready for the next call. And we only had 2 submitted. So I'm going to take those pre-submitted ones first. And then I will go to anybody who has live questions or wants to chat about anything that's on their mind business wise. These business roundtables are really just kind of a open forum to kind of pick my brain. So let me head into Elizabeth isn't on. Tanel, I have you up first on the question. I don't know if you're able to chat it out, if you want time to chat it out, or if you want me to read it and just give my opinion. I'll give you a second to let me know what you'd like to do.
I can chat through it. I'm
Do you
just
want me to
trying.
read it again? Or
I remember when it was. So if you want to, you can.
okay, cool. I'll just read it for some context and then we'll go from there. How to work through when you feel like you need to do a massive shift in what your business is all about. Okay, I can read the next part, but I want to hear it from you. Lay it on me. What's on your mind?
So, my focus, my idea was around ClickUp specifically and coaching all in ClickUp. But I keep finding myself as I'm creating like freebies or I'm thinking through content, it all has way more to do with just helping working moms like function. And ClickUp just happens to be one of those tools, right? And in the last mompreneur thing, when I was playing around with the AI and like framework stuff, I came up with one. So I've had, you'll laugh. So for I don't know how many years, I had I still own the domain, but I don't have anything on it, called Super Mommy Complex. And I use it for, that's what I put in my kids' school stuff. I just think it's funny. Anyway, because we all have this super mommy complex, especially when you're a like working 9 to 5 kind of mom. Like there is this expectation almost that you need to be a super mom to even function in life. So I don't know. That's kind of, I just keep getting pulled into that kind of stuff. And so maybe I just make ClickUp like a small part of it. It could be bigger depending on what people want, but I don't know. What are your thoughts? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep. What do you want to help moms do?
Um, get over this whole super mommy complex, basically. Like, I guess it might be, it's practical, like on the practical advice of how to set up some things to make it easier for you to do X, Y, and Z. But also a lot of like, stop thinking that you need to go be on the PTA when you work 60-hour weeks and you have, you know, other obligations and need to spend time with your family. Yeah, I guess it's helping them with their prioritizing family, I guess, and work and not feeling like they need to do all the extra. I don't know. Just
No, because so there's two
and then,
things, right? When we talk about what we're going to help people do, one is like what they want and what they're asking for, and one is what we really know they need, right?
yeah,
And so
true.
it's so what people will exchange probably dollars or email addresses for, you're going to solve my pain point, which is I am feeling unorganized, I'm stressed out, I have too many things to do, and I need a system and a tool to help me get there.
Right.
What you also know that they need to hear, the mindset piece of it, is that you don't have to do it all. One of the ways you're going to do that is learn to prioritize differently by taking some things off your plate. Like you can still teach both of those. I don't think they're separate ideas. And
Okay.
ClickUp is what's called the mechanism, right? So I have a few
Right.
mechanisms I teach. Trello is one of my mechanisms, right? ClickUp is something I teach inside of the roadmap. That's a mechanism for that one. Some of the chat AI stuff that I taught in the roadmap, that's like a mechanism for that. So I think ClickUp is your mechanism for helping moms get working moms who are in traditional jobs organize their lives in a way that they feel like they're more in control of their time.
Right. Because normally most things that are out there are for like kind of in your realm, right? Where you have
Yeah.
some flexibility. Like
Yeah.
I work here and I work here. And when we don't have that ability, it's like we work
Yes.
right here or we're gonna lose our job. Um,
Right.
yeah. It's just a different way of handling it. That's sometimes way more complex because you're like, well, yeah, the dentist is closed when I'm off work. So
Right.
how do I figure that out?
It's different.
Right.
It is, yeah, it is different. And it's a different, because I have had, there's a reason, like, if I looked at the people I attracted, I would say like 75% of them fit into more of an online space, but you like my methods, right? And that's like not technically right. You'll always get outliers, but there are people who don't come to me because they ask me these questions via email or DM or whatever. But like, I don't have the flexibility because I'm working 9 to 5, right? And I can give them all those tips, but I'm not doing that anymore. So it looks a little bit different. So I don't think it's a new idea, Tennille. I think it's the
Okay.
same idea. I think that you're overthinking it, if I'm honest. I think you're overthinking it. I think it's the same idea. I think it's the thing to always continue to ask yourself is like, what is the promise? Like, what do I want to get them to do? And then it's funny because we'll talk about this in a little bit, but like reminding yourself, what do they need help with? Because while I, of course, want to get over my feelings of having to do it all, like, I don't know, I'll work on it in therapy, right? Like, that's not going to solve my immediate problem. I know that's going to take a while to get there. That's not sexy. That's not cute. I'll handle that somewhere else. Hey, but you're going to give me a template to actually make my day-to-day easier. Take my money. You know what I mean? Like, and that's how you need to think about it too, is
Okay.
like, how are they saying it? And what immediate problem are you going to solve for them? Like, what are they going to walk away with? What is that actual promise?
Okay.
Does that
Cool.
help?
Yeah, it does.
Cool.
Well,
And
thank you.
yeah, bring all those in a little bit and we'll kind of
I know, right? I'm
do. Yeah.
excited. Okay, thanks.
Cool. Awesome. All right, I'll get to the other question that was pre-submitted. I think we did, like I said, we only have the 2 today. So if you guys have more, I will stay on till about 12:40, 12:45, because I do have a hard stop today. So think if you have a question or you want coaching on anything specific. Other question came from Elizabeth. What is the best way to manage the transition from full-time entrepreneur when you're used to collaborating on a team, fighting the feelings of loneliness? Oh man, I feel like as I'm saying this, I want to do like a full episode on this, which I think I will. So I think I'm going to copy this and put this into my content board because this is such a good question. Or look at me. I'm like, or I'll just do it now and then we'll record it later. So when you become an entrepreneur and you leave a traditional job, there are so many things that happen. And I think one of those is this identity crisis between like who you think you are supposed to be, who you were, and how you operate. When I left teaching, I think I struggled that whole first year to figure it out because I was a teacher for almost a decade, right? Like I was Miss Cam. My maiden name was Cam. So I was just Cam. Cam. Like that's who I was for almost 10 years of my life. And I didn't know anything else. And you guys know my story, but part of that is I like lost who I was as Cara. Like I didn't even know who Cara was during that time because I literally was like, let me just do everything for everyone else. So I left and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm not a teacher anymore. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want. I don't know how to make a schedule. And what I did was I burnt out because I went into entrepreneurship, with network marketing full time, and I was doing all the same things. I was scheduling myself from 7 to 7 every day. I was making sure I was doing things hour by hour. I was clinging onto that traditional environment because I didn't know how to transition. So when I think about transitioning, one, congrats, like it's really exciting. But there's a couple things you want to do because we'll talk about the loneliness in a second, but practically one of the hardest things to wrap your brain around is the fact that you're in charge. Like I can make money, but like that's on me now, right? Like, and I don't have any deadlines. I don't have a boss. If I don't get it done, it's just not done, right? And that is very hard for us, especially when you come from a place of, like Tennille was just saying, if I don't go to do this at work, I get fired, right? You're the one in the beginning, especially when you're solopreneur, putting all the pressure is on you. And that's enormous. That feels like huge because you don't know what to do or how to operate. And especially when you're trying to manage your home at the same time, there's a lot. So I would say, first things first, I wish I had spent more time pausing before jumping in. So like when I first got started and I left teaching, I wish I did take that year, but I went right into like hardcore 40 hours a week, blah, blah, blah. But for me, it felt like a break because I was working 60 hours a week. So I was like, well, I just went from 60 hours a week to 40 hours a week. Like, this is great. This is the best. But I wish I had stopped and given myself a little bit of time off to ask myself, what do I want? What is the vision for this business? What do I want it to look like working from home? Like, I wish I had done that instead of just jumping in. The thing, though, about this is, and this is super timely because of like, I'll share a mini story from something that's happening to me today. People do not get what you do. They do not understand it. When you are like a full-time entrepreneur working from home, I feel like it's this weird place, and I don't know, maybe if anyone can connect with this, where I feel like I'm in between, right? Like I'm not a stay-at-home mom because I'm working, especially like when my kids were actually home during the workday. I felt like I was like, I feel like I'm a stay-at-home mom and a working mom, and I have to take on both roles full time. And that's something that I struggle with in my brain, right? So it's like I don't fit in there because I can't just like, some of my stay-at-home mom friends will text me and be like, let's go to the park or let's do that. And I'm like, if I don't schedule it, I can't do it. Like now, I'm like, if we don't, like, I have a coffee date tomorrow morning. My friend texted me 2 weeks ago. Hey, can we schedule a coffee date? I know you're working, because me and her have had this conversation because we butted heads about it a bit. So she understands now. She's like, I know you're working. Can we schedule a coffee date in September? I will do it. I love to do that. I intentionally take time to do that. And that's why I built this business to do that. But people like don't get it. They're like, well, you're home, so you should answer my text or do this, or, you're available to me. And then there are people who are working full time who see me at home. And I actually had a not so nice email exchange in something else I was doing today personally, where they were a teacher, and they were like, well, I'm a teacher and I work these full hours. And then, teachers have to take all this work home. So I just can't put in any, is a Girl Scout thing. I just can't put as many hours in as you. You probably don't get it, but it's just when you work a full-time actual job, the word actual was there, an actual job, it's just way more demanding. And I was like, back up. But I was professional in I actually haven't responded to her email yet because I needed to calm myself down a little bit. Because I do think, and this is a huge generalization, but people who work traditional 9-to-5 jobs look at something like what I do and they don't think it's a real job. And this is a conversation I have to have, not anymore, but had in the beginning with my husband, that this is like a legit job. And I would say to him, like, I feel like you don't think what I'm doing is real. And he's like, I didn't say any of that. He's like, that's a story you're making up in your head, right? But I was taking on the pressure of having to do all of it. And so what I will say is being a full-time entrepreneur is really hard because people are not going to understand what you do. And maybe I don't do a great enough job explaining it. Like a friend of mine was asking, she's like, what do you actually do? Like, what does your day look like? And I was like, let me tell you. And like, how do you make money? These are like all questions people ask me. And in my personal life, I actually keep what I do. Like, I don't post a ton about my business on my personal page. I remember when I was coaching cheer, I talked to my assistant coach. She came over, we were planning something out, and I said something about work. And I was like, yeah, I wrote about that in my book. And she was like, you wrote a book? Like, she didn't even know I did that. Like, I don't really talk about it enough. And I think that's also something that's important to do is, as you're starting and growing your business, is talking about it and you treating it like a real business. And I still struggle with this. I'm always like, oh, I guess, whatever. Like because I think people think it's silly or they don't get it. It's like not worth all of the explaining I do. So to answer this question though, of like, it's lonely, is getting around people who understand it, getting in communities of other people who are entrepreneurs, who are trying to grow businesses, is the best way that I've been able to combat loneliness. Because I can tell my husband as soon as he walks in the door, like word vomit, all these work things and stats and analytics and email marketing. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And the other day he actually had to use AI for work. And he was like talking about ChatGPT, and he was like, do you know how to do that? And I like showed him how to do something. And he was like, oh my God. And I was like, I mean, I could show him, but he doesn't get it, right? He doesn't get my job, even though I tell him it, right? The only people who are really going to understand what it's like for you on a day-to-day are people in a parallel journey. So I think that find communities, you can ask in the club group, like there's tons of entrepreneurs who are in different phases of their business. Find other people who are doing it because they're going to be the ones who get it. They're going to be, if you read the Life Council with us, whatever that was, 2 months ago, the biz besties, right? Because they get your jargon, they get what you're talking about, they understand it so much better, and it just becomes easier. And the other thing I have had to do is release my expectation that other people are going to understand what I do in real life. Like, I just have to sometimes, people aren't going to get it. And that woman who like wrote me the email about her actual 9-to-5 job and whatever she thinks I do at home, right? And listen, I'm not gonna lie. Yesterday I wanted to read, so I sat and I read for an hour. Like but I will say this too. I worked my butt off for the past almost 6 years to be able to get to a place to make this schedule, right? And so I have to feel confident in that at the same time. And I'm grateful and thankful for the business that I've built, right? Because I wasn't happy as a teacher. But she is never going to understand what my life is like. And I could explain it to her. I could tell her, right? It's not going to click for her. So I think the best way to combat the loneliness, and for those of you who jump on accountability calls, I think you can connect with this, is to get around other people that are in the trenches, right? What's the, is it Teddy Roosevelt, right? In the arena, the people who are in the arena, Brene Brown talks about it in her book. I think it's a Teddy Roosevelt quote, that like, there's lots of people who are going to yap, and they're going to have lots of thoughts and opinions about it. But until you're in the arena, you don't understand it. So find people in your arena, find people in a search for a Facebook group for bloggers or whatever it is, and just start to make some connections. And I like to connect with other people online. I've tried really hard to find people in my like town. And I went to a couple like small business like networking things, but they're mostly people who have either services or people who have brick and mortars. Like they just don't get it. Like, there's not like podcasters of Bucks County. Like I've tried to find it because that would be so fun to sit with people, because that is the other thing that I will say helps me, is having people to talk about it. So Arwen and I were laughing about this last week. We're working on a big SOP project. We're all writing our SOPs out. And so I'm rewriting my SOPs, or writing them because I never had them, for being a CEO. Like I've never had CEO. And I was like, Arwen, what do I do? I was like, what do I really do? And I was like, I don't know. I word vomit stuff to the team, change my mind 100 times. We blow the business up. We do things like, we were laughing about it. Right. And what got me through that moment, because I was in my feels, actually, I was like sitting there, I was like, what do I do? What do I do? Is I went to my team. And I know a lot of you here don't have teams yet, or a contractor, anybody who works for you, VAs, whatever. But I will say it is so helpful, because I was like, wouldn't it be great if we were all together, like in an office? Like it'd be so much fun. But unfortunately, that isn't the case for most of us in the online business space. So finding people you can virtually connect with, I think helps. It helps fight the loneliness a little bit. So that was like a side note plus 12 stories. But hopefully, if you're feeling lonely in this because people don't understand, it's just also the reminder that you have to enroll people in your vision, right? Like you have to tell them what you're doing and talk about it. But also they're not going to understand it in the same way you understand it. So giving them the grace, but being proactive to reach out to other people and be like, hey, you want to be my buddy? So we can like talk back and forth on Voxer and Facebook group. I think there's just something about being around people who understand it, and that are at the right level. I just joined a new coaching group, and I loved my last coach and my coaching group, and that one's finishing up. But I felt myself feeling like out of place in the group a little bit. And I felt like I couldn't connect with everyone there. We were just on a call Monday because my coach was on sabbatical. He just came back. And one of the and the reason I feel out of place is because I feel these people are like light years ahead of me in the business. And I say this to say, she just said, oh, they just had a launch last month and it was $150,000 launch. And I was like, oh, okay, why am I in this room? Right. Like it did not, like my business is not there. Right. Like I don't have that type of business yet with 150,000 in one launch type of thing. And one of the things I liked the group a lot, and it was like, I learned a lot. I felt like it was helping me level up as a CEO, like all those things, but I felt like it wasn't the right group for me. And why I'm switching coaches is because I was like, I need to find people who are like more at my level, but you don't want to always be like, they always say you don't want to be the smartest person in the room, right? Like you don't want to be the most ahead person, but you don't want to be like, you want to find this nice middle ground where you're not like in that group. Again, I loved it. I felt like it was really starting to get to my mind that I was like, I'm not good enough. I don't deserve to be here. Why am I here? These people are killing it. Like, I feel like I'm just like not providing or bringing anything to the table. And it was like it wasn't the right fit. And so I did a lot of research to find another coach, and I asked her these questions. I'm like, listen, this is what I didn't like about my last group. Not that I have to not that I'm saying like my business is so great, but like I am not a beginning entrepreneur. And so I don't want to be in a group with beginning entrepreneurs, but I don't want to be in a group with people who are having $150,000 launches, because I'm in between that. Right. Like, and I'm at this place. And it's actually, the group that I joined is actually called the messy middle, which is what I feel like I'm in. I'm in this messy middle place where I'm like, I want to be there, and I'm excited for a new opportunity. So, Julia kind of asked that, like, how do you find other people? Well, one, I think when it's local, I would look in like your local moms groups. That's where like there is like a lower, I live in a county, it's called Bucks County. So there's like a lower Bucks on small group, small business entrepreneur, whatever, it's got a long title, group. So we started there with, I saw somebody posted. And so I don't know about you, but my local Facebook groups on like Mondays or Fridays, you're allowed to post about your business. So like I started to look and see what other types of businesses people had. In my area, most people have a lot of like, where you make things on your Cricut or making cupcakes, like those types of businesses, right? And a lot of service providers, right? Like we've got the home organizers and the cleaning businesses and stuff. But I haven't met anyone super local that even has a podcast. And so that's also a thing maybe I could do, is like, you could also just ask. And again, going back to life counsel, but one of the things in the life counsel talking about the yes friend, if anyone read the life counsel, anyway, I am the yes friend for most relationships I'm in, and it's exhausting. I'm exhausted of being the yes friend because I'm always the one facilitating this stuff. And I told my friend today, I was like, she's my daily duty friend. And I was like, I just need to stop. I was like, I just can't be the yes friend anymore. Like, it's just too tiring for me. But I'm that person who will post in a group and be like, hey, does anyone else in the, and now that I'm saying anything, I'm going to do it. Have a podcast. I'd love to like, meet up at Starbucks and just talk like what's working in your podcast, to have some like local mom friends. Like, I think it's just going out there and asking is going to be the best start. But also, again, doesn't have to be Facebook. Check LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn's a great place for finding that. Check what is meetup.com. I mean, I don't know if they might have some there. Check the events page on Facebook. They'll have some of those. But I would say starting there. And if you really are looking to connect with people locally, just ask, because you don't know, right? You don't know who, like my assistant coach to me, she just like, you wrote a book. Like, I have no idea how many authors are in the area. You know what I mean? Like, because I haven't asked. And the library actually just posted a thing where they're doing a local author book fair, right? So I'm applying to be at the book fair. And they're going to put a bunch of books in the library. It's gonna be really cool. Well, it's a great place to network with other, authors, if that's something that I want. Yeah. Virginia says I used to go to a podcast meeting. Yeah. It's really fun to just like have other people, I think, that get it. But sometimes it's hard to find them on like in real life. And also sometimes it's hard to just like schedule a time to meet up. So that's why I like online communities a lot. I need connection. Like, that's really important to me. I'm not like, I could call myself like an outgoing introvert. Like, I prefer to like stay in my lane, but I like to talk to people, if that makes sense. Like, it's exhausting for me to be as outgoing as I am. Like, I need to come home and recharge, and I don't want to talk. But I really like that connection because I can feel really lonely and I get really in my head. So good questions. Those were the only two submitted for today. So if anybody else has a question they want answered, I had mentioned in the beginning that I'm going to be having a hard stop around 12:45. And so we'll go there. Tara, we'll go to you, and then Ellen, I see your comment. I'll go to that one next. Hey.
I haven't been to one of these business roundtables, and I just popped in because I saw your email. So I'm sure you've probably answered this or been through it with other people. And I've talked to you a little bit about like how my business idea is like just a seed. And I'm spending the time and thinking and in the dream phases. And I guess my question is kind of like, what does it look like to show up for that business more than outside of my own brain swirl, when you don't even know what it's going to be? Like, how, I don't know if that's making sense.
Like, you have this idea in your head and you're like, how do I even decide what it looks like?
Do I share that process? Do I keep it to myself until I have it more clear? And at this point, like, I get into the imposter syndrome type thing. Like, oh, my idea is not even a business idea. It's just like a product idea. So like, who am I to like show up and be like anything?
Yeah.
Other than just, I'm Tara.
Yeah. I mean, well, I'm glad you brought up that imposter syndrome, because I think it's incredibly real, and it is very much something that, especially in the beginning of the dream phase, like, that's what we struggle with, right? Is like, who am I, or why am I going to do it? And I think, yes, you put it out there right away. Like, I've been sharing a couple of posts that have come up for me as my memories come up, because now my November 5th is 6 years for me. So right around now is when I'm seeing the memories of the seeds being planted of maybe I'm going to do this, or when I transitioned from network marketing, there was a post that went up on my memories, and it was like, I love what I do with my company, but I really would love to just like help people plan their schedules and like coach them through that. Is that even a real job? Like, that was the post. And I see that and I'm like, oh my God, like, look at that. Right. And so I think there's so much power in just saying it. Like, I love to do this XYZ thing. And I'm just throwing it out there because I want to claim that it's something interesting to me. Has anyone ever thought about this? And just put it out there, because I think the first way to get your head with the imposter syndrome with your business is like, I'm just going to say it. And if people think it's a silly idea, okay. Like, so what? Right? Like, so what are you making it mean? If someone could be like, oh, someone else does that, or, oh, I don't think anyone would pay for that. Okay, that's their problem. But it doesn't mean that it's not your dream. So I 100% think the first step is that I want to do this thing. I'm super excited about that. And the hard part is, I find in the beginning, like, unfortunately, sometimes the people closest to you aren't always the first customers for you, right? But they're going to be cheering you on, right? The people that matter. And I think when you put it out there, there's so many things that happen. One of those is like in the brain, right? When you put something out, then all of a sudden your brain starts to see the possibilities of it where it was blocked before. And so I think it's
Make it real.
And there's like the front part of our brain, the reticular activating system, is the one, like I always share this example, when you're like, I'm going to get a black BMW, and then all you see everywhere is black BMWs. It's because your brain was blocked to that possibility because it wasn't anything. And then all of a sudden the synapses of your brain like move around, and now that's all you see. Right. And so there is this part of our brain that until we stake claim on something like that, it doesn't see it as real. It doesn't see it as a possibility. It doesn't even see it as a thing that could happen, because your brain is like, its job is to keep you safe. So it's like trying to keep you safe from something that like might not even happen. But if it's something you want, yeah, I think you just say it, and you could post it on your Facebook. You could tell somebody. That's like that first step of making it real. And then, there's a process to go into market research and stuff like that to figure out, how do I make it a business?
Yeah. And just like logistically speaking, just because you mentioned like having your Facebook, your personal Facebook and your business side, like, do you just start one that's like just, you were saying that you wish you talked about it more on your personal.
Well, yeah, I would definitely post it on your personal page, but you 100% will need a business Facebook page. Like, one, you're actually not supposed to promote businesses on personal pages. Like, everyone does it, but you're not supposed to. It's like against Facebook terms and agreements. They could shut your page down. But two, if you actually want to have a business where you're using advertisement or Facebook ads at all, you need to have a business page. You can't do that from there. And a business page will have you seeming more legit. This is a silly example, maybe not. But when I was looking for a cheer gym for my daughter, there was a couple that I went to, and they didn't have pages. They had like profiles that you had to like friend request to like get to their information. And I was like, do they not understand the difference between a page and like do they not like understand it? And it turned me off, because I was like, well, you obviously don't even know what you're talking about. Like, you're not even like a legit business. Do you know what I mean? Like, it legitimizes it. I think when you make that first step to being like, I'm going to make a page about my business because it is a business, again, for you and for customers, they see it that way as well.
And it brings up a good point, because like with the new position that I have, I'm like in front of the eyes of a lot more people just by the nature of what I'm doing. And I've gotten friend requests and stuff, and it's like, these are my college pictures. Like, I'm not sure I want to share that much of me with these people.
Right. And that I will say, the other reason, like, I used to, but I don't anymore. Like, I don't accept friend requests from students. Like, so if any of you are like sitting in my queue, like I used to do it, but I just don't anymore, because it is a fine line and a boundary that, like, I love you guys, but also you have to have those boundaries. Like, that's the other reason I don't check my Facebook messages, like, ever in real life. I like scan them. And if they're work stuff, I just say email, because you have to have that line. So I think there's two things. I think there's one, the logistics of, you should start a business page or whatever you want to do, whatever channel you want to go with. But I think even on your personal page, just putting that dream out there, because one, it's really cool when it comes up in your memories and you get to see it like planted. Like, it's the coolest, most surreal feeling to be like, oh my God, Cara from 6 years ago, like, really was thinking about this. And if I could tell her, like, just keep going, because like, look what it could turn into. Like, one, that's cool. But two, just to like get your own skin in the game. Yeah. And there's a conversation in the chat. You can read over what's in Facebook stuff. I would go to Facebook and just look at their actual rules. So
thank you.
Cool. All right. Let me go up to Ellen's question real quick. Recommendations for keeping a strong mindset when your business isn't making money to cover expenses. Try to streamline and drop. Yes. It's so hard. In the very beginning, it is, I feel like we broke even maybe the first couple of years of just trying to pay to go. And I think there's this I don't know what the word is, this like misaligned thought, right? Where we think right away because we're an online business, we don't have as much overhead as brick and mortar businesses. So of course we'll make money right away. There's some statistic out there that I'm going to not make up, but sort of make up because I have no facts to back it up right now. But most businesses don't make it out of the first 5 years, right? And that is in like brick and mortar world. But like, think about that. Like most businesses are in the red for the first 5 years as they start up. But we as entrepreneurs think, well, I don't have a mortgage. It should be easier. Now, technically, we do have a ton less expenses than a physical store selling things, right? But I think there's people out there saying like, but you're just going to make money right away and it's just going to be great. So I think the one mindset, there's two things. We'll talk mindset, little woo, then we'll get practical because we got to pay bills, right? The one mindset is also reminding ourselves like, one, I like what you said. Have you been keeping it lean? Like, have you been like looking at those things? Do you audit your expenses? Like I just went through and I have an audit on my list for tomorrow to do of expenses in the business, like really trying to say like, what can I use to keep my business as lean as possible for now? Knowing your numbers, like what do you need to bring in to just pay the business expenses plus, your goals. Those are all really important things to do. But it's also just the reality that, my first 6 months, I don't think I made $17 and then 0, 0, 0, 0. And I had to put it out there. And it happens, like you keep going. And a lot of, the times like people will be like, oh, you got all these downloads on your podcast. It's because I just never stopped, right? It's because I didn't give up on it and it compounded. So I think the mindset of being strong in like the impact you want to have, knowing that you're celebrating every little win that's like coming towards helps me on those days where I'm like, oh my God, this isn't bringing in the money I need. That's the mindset piece, but I'll just give you like a little bit of the practical. You said here, like talking about your products, and I will like own, I do not do this well. And this is something I'm like, I feel like, I had somebody ask me like, oh wait, what do you sell? Like people don't even know, right? Like I don't talk about my stuff enough. And I think that's one thing that's really, a mistake we do is we think people will just know and people will just, and I say I'm talking to myself too, just come to me. Like they just know I teach that. Of course they know I have this course. Of course they know I have this membership. Of course I know they have this, but talking about it more, promoting it more, telling student stories, like those things are all really important. Knowing that you're going to give stuff away for free, right? Because people are going to come in for free and people are savvy about that. And they want to know that there's good content coming from you before they put money in. But knowing that, yeah, you still want to make some money. So, again, it depends. It obviously is different on everyone's business model, but thinking in the beginning, like, how much do I need to make? Okay, I have $100 in expenses this month. What can I do to bring in $100 this month? And for a lot of us, the easiest, like lowest lift technically is maybe like a one-on-one thing, right? Like, can I find one person that their kid is struggling with getting excited about reading? Can I get on and do do two maybe for like $50 each, like super good, 30 minutes. Let's get on to start of the school year. I'm gonna give you book recommendations. I'm gonna give you some tips and advice. And while in the beginning I was resistant because I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to trade my hour for $1 like that. Sometimes you got to do it while you grow. And I think it's, excuse me, that reminder that sometimes we have to do some things out of like what we see the vision being, because we still need to make the money. Ellen, you want to add anything on that?
I was like, unmute, come on. Yeah, that's really helpful, actually. I think, I don't know if it's my migraines that have been holding me back from ever offering a one-on-one service, or if it's because I used to do similar stuff to what I would probably put in a one-on-one when I was doing my network marketing, but it was for free to sell the network marketing product. So I guess part of me is like, some of my audience is gonna be like, wait, I gotta pay for that now. Hold up.
Yeah. And I think there's that rebellious resistance that comes up, when you're like, oh, I don't want to do this, or I don't see this in my long-term business plan, right? If I don't see it, why am I going to do it now? So I think sometimes that's when we have to just decide, what do I need to do to kind of move to the next level,
Yeah. At this point, I'm like, I need the cash.
Yeah. And I think it's also playing around with it and testing it, right?
Yeah.
Like the other day we did a flash sale for something for super cheap, and we got a big quantity of people who came in. Whereas like, yeah, I could just sell one of my highest ticket thing, but if that's not selling, what can I, you know what I mean? How can I move this around? We did that one year where we did like a $1 sale, like 3-4 years ago, I feel like it was. And we like offered like a couple Trello bundles for like $1 or something. And we got like, because I needed to, it was like in the very beginning and I needed to make a bill or something. And I was like, cool, I need to make this much. Like, how can I be creative about the products that I have? But I think you're right, though. You got to talk about it. You got to invite. And again, like now that we're about to hit year 6, so I feel like I can say this now that I'm like past that 5-year mark. But like there's this, it doesn't have to be a hustle, but there's a scrappiness to it in the beginning where we have to be willing and open to think outside of the box, do things that like, maybe aren't in our long term, but fit for now. Like, and I always say like, I don't hustle. I'm very intentional about the way I work. I have seasons of push. And I think that's like the difference mindset wise is like, maybe this is a season of push where you're like, I need to make X amount of money. What is that going to look like for me right now? And knowing that.
Yeah. For me, like the biggest surge of income I've had was my summit back in March, but I'm like, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
To just get.
So then the question becomes, can you do something like that on a smaller scale? Could you do it one day?
That could be possible.
Could
I've
you
been toying around with the idea of an audio summit even.
Yeah. Like
Don't have to show up on video, which is
where we
nice.
test. You just said to me, right? We always say data over drama. You just said to me, the biggest surge of income I had was this summit. So what does that tell you?
They like the summit.
Yeah. Why do you think they liked it?
Probably the variety of topics in one place.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Most questions answered.
So what can you do? Right? Thinking different, similar to summit, but maybe less work. How about a bundle?
Do that.
Have you made enough connections with people that you could pull together a low ticket bundle?
I've definitely participated in a lot recently where I could turn around and be like, okay, people come to me.
Yeah. And again, it's not the live component. It's not all, it's a bundle of stuff.
Yeah.
There's options. Yeah. So it's thinking, if this is what is bringing in the most money and working for you, how can you do more of that? I think that a lot of times when we're trying to think about our skills, for example, we're trying to like work more on the things that aren't working well, right? When in reality, if we just spent time on the things that were already working and put more energy into that, that's where your time should be spent, not trying to like just move everything that isn't working up, do more of what's working. That's where your time should be spent.
That, and I keep going down I want to get my podcast out there. I want to get my podcast out there, but that's not going to earn me money. So it's just.
Yeah, that's your long game, right? Long game, short game strategy. We'll think more about it. Noodle it around.
Yep.
Cool.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. I'm gonna, Sarah, you want to close us out with your thoughts, and then I am gonna have a hard stop in a little couple minutes. So I would love to hear. Sarah said she didn't have a question, but you had a realization when I was talking about being lonely and the entrepreneur thing. So if you want to close.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm changing a diaper at the moment. So anyway, yeah, I was, when you were talking about you brought up the Atlas of or what was it? The thing about being in the arena.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a reminder, because like recently with my new, excitement over my new clients and making enough to cover my business expenses and bring home money to the family, like in the business, the bookkeeping academy, I've had the people over there have been saying, oh, I bet your husband is going to be so excited and all this and that. And like, on one hand, I was like, I knew, as busy as he is and as stressed out as he's been, like he still doesn't get it. Even though I'm going to bring some home, that's going to make him happy, but he doesn't have like that excitement that I would like.
Yeah. And
so, but it just was you talking, it was just a reminder that it's okay if he's not the one that's excited, because I have all of you and I have all of the people in the academy to be excited because they actually get it. And so it was great just to have that reminder, because I was kind of feeling a little bit of the like, I'm working so hard here. Why are you not excited for what's going on? Like, I know he's thankful for it and he's happy, but he wishes it was a lot more, right? And so do I.
Yeah.
But yet I have all this excitement going on that he doesn't have yet. And so it was just a great reminder to be okay with the fact that he's not excited and just focus on the people that are excited and get it.
Yeah. And it is very, it's really hard because we really want those people, like the closest ones to us, to be the most excited. But it's actually an unfair expectation for us to put on them that they are going to be the most excited about it when it's our vision and our goal. Of course, we want their support, right? Like I want to like share stuff with my husband and him be like, "Ooh, good for you." But he's never going to understand it like me. And when I, in the beginning, would till recently, get so mad at him that he wasn't like more excited for stuff that I was saying. And he was like, I just don't know what you do. He's like, I just don't get it. And I was like, you know what? It is unfair for me to expect you to like cheer me on in that way. Yes, I want you to cheer me on, but you can't be my biggest cheerleader because you aren't, quote, in the arena with me, right? He can be a support system, but that's different than biggest cheerleader.
Yeah. Right now, like when I sign the new client, the first thing that response I get from him is, can you handle all this work? And I'm like, my goodness, really? That's your first response? And like, I get it because we're coming off of a however many year stint here where like I just had so many things going on and I didn't even know that I was going through depression and all those things, right? And like I'm coming out of it and I'm the only one that can feel how much I've changed and he really can't. And so like his first response is, that's great, but can you handle all the work? And I keep talking about how I'm gonna keep growing because we need the income. And his biggest thing is, can you handle it? Can you handle all the work? And I'm just like, I wish he would be excited for me. But
I know. And yeah. I think the only advice, being on like the other side of lots of business fights, is what I have found is my husband is much more like practical in that sort of way, same types of things, like, oh, this is going to bring in this money and like those sort of things, but also just telling him how I need to receive feedback about my business. Like just saying like, hey, I wanted to share something that happened today at work. Like, I know you kind of like don't get it, but I'm really excited about it. Could you just like be excited for me as I share it? And then I like word vomit on him and he's like, woohoo. And I'm like, great, thanks. And just saying it, because just like in marriage, like they can't read our minds and they don't know how we want to receive support around it. So we'll get
that's
there.
great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We'll get there and we're excited. And I guess rounding us out back to the first or second question about loneliness is like that community, right? Being around the other people who understand it, make it just so much less lonely and so much less frustrating. So thank you guys. Sorry to dip early, but I wanted to just give myself a little break before the next call. And we only have those 2 questions submitted. Just so you know, this was a bonus that we had for 2023. So we have October, November, December, 3 more business roundtables left to go. If you want to just ask me general questions, make sure you please get them pre-submitted because I want to answer them for you. Otherwise, have a wonderful rest of your day. Jump in the group. If you're looking for a buddy to hang out with, jump in the group, ask. Everyone has been so great with connecting with each other and making those collaborations. So just know that you don't have to do it alone. Like we are here to be that community for you. So have a good one, guys. See you soon.